Record. Okay, right. We're going to work out 10% of 750. Umama, let's start with the 10% value first, and then we're going to build it up to the 20s and the 30s and so on. So can you remind us, please, how did we work out 10% of 750 in the previous exercise? What did we do?
We have to take away a 0, but if we didn't have enough 0, we have to put a decimal point on the end and move it one place to the left.
So when you're working at 10%, so what are you trying to do first of all? You're trying to divide by 10. 10% is a tenth of something. When you work at 10% and then you take off a 0, so you need to mention the first part. So when you're doing 10%, you are trying to do this. You're working out 10 hundredths or something, which is the same as 1/10, which is what we're working out over here. So you need to make sure you understand the concept first, not just you're removing a 0. That's more mechanical. I want you to have an understanding of what 10% actually is. So yes, we can remove a 0 from a whole number with zeros. So what's the final answer?
75.
75. Now using that idea, we want to work out now 20% of 480. So what should we work out first?
1/5.
So if you want to work out 20%, you should work out what first?
10%.
And then how do you get it to 20?
Times by 2.
Fantastic, lovely. So what's 10% of 480?
48.
That's 10%. So and then we double it, and that gives us
96.
Fantastic. So now what we're doing is we're working out 20% by first of all starting from 10%, because 20% is a multiple of 10. Now using that same principle, I want you to do for me 70% of 600. How do we do that? First, what do we start with?
10%.
So what's 10% of 600?
60.
And then how do we get the 10% all the way up to 70?
Times by 7.
And what's 10 times by 7?
70.
Which we want. And then what is 60 times by 7?
420.
Fantastic, lovely. You get the idea now?
Yeah.
So if you're working at any multiple of 10% in a question, you first of all start with 10% and then you work at that other percent. So let's have Sarah, please. Can you help me with the next question? I want you to work out for me 80% of 200. Thank you, Mama.
First of all, 10% of 200 would be 20.
And how did you do that? What did you do?
I divided by 10.
Okay, why did you divide it by 10? Because?
Because I'm first doing 10% and it's equal to...
Because 10% is equivalent to 1/10 of something. To work out 1/10 of something, we divide it by 10. So lovely. So what does that give us?
It gives 20.
So how do I get from 10% all the way up to 80% what I need? What do I do?
Multiply by 8.
So you got to multiply both of them by 8. Okay. And what's 20 times by 8?
160.
Fantastic. So them are the 4 questions that we just done. Okay, now I need this half of the page done now. I'm going to put 2 minutes on the timer. And everybody, let's have a go. Okay, folks, so those are the answers for the questions which we gave you to practice. Now we're going to move on to working out multiples of 1%. So we can do that as a separate video. Stop this video here. It'll be easier to find